Page 234 of The Unfolding is the story of Erin Beck.
Those first few days were terribly dark. It was a breaking point and a changing point for me. I can choose to go through life being a bitter servant because this is my story. This is where I am now. Or I can make God famous with my love.
God's story has been unfolding.
Since the beginning of time.
He invites you to be a part of it.
Wow. Another page in The Unfolding.
Hey, this is Meredith Foster. Right at the top of today's show, I want to let you know that this episode includes a hard story. If you've been affected by pregnancy or infant loss, stillbirth, or the trauma of losing a child, this episode might be difficult to hear. At 37 weeks of pregnancy, Erin Beck was so looking forward to meeting her daughter, Ainsley. She already had 2 children at home, and she felt prepared for her 3rd labor and delivery. So when she began having contractions, she felt joy at the thought of bringing her daughter home. She couldn't have imagined the heartache that she would experience that day. We often spend a lot of time and energy trying to avoid pain, and yet loss and grief are inevitable in life. Today, Erin Beck is sharing a hard but beautiful story about learning that it's possible to hold both the deepest pain, the most overwhelming grief, and the celebration of the beauty of life. We can hold both grief and joy, especially when we have the hope of eternity.
I grew up in a Christian family. I was born just knowing who Jesus was. That was always ingrained in me. So I'm extremely thankful for that. I had ups and downs just like anyone has in life. And then I got married to my husband. Things were great. I have 2 children. Parker was 7. Layla was 4. And we were expecting our 3rd. And life was really good. I always knew I needed God. But man, I didn't know how much I needed God. I just had I had to have him every moment of the day just to get me through. So my faith changed in that difference of my need for him changed, just this raw, can't breathe right now. I need God every minute of the day just to get through it. Psalm 34:18, when it says, God is close to the brokenhearted. I had always loved that verse and found, that's a really beautiful verse. But until you've really been in that pain, it's just not the same.
So had you ever really experienced a deep brokenheartedness before in your life?
Not like that. No, I've had lost grandparents and pain before, but the loss of a child is like no other pain you'll ever go through. Ainsley's pregnancy was wonderful, super healthy, nothing out of the ordinary. Again, she was my 3rd. Everything seemed really breezy. I lived in this naive bubble that everything was going to be fine. There was no issues at all. Every sonogram was perfect. Every appointment was perfect. There was just no reason to worry.
So when was the first indication that something wasn't going well?
So at 37 weeks, I had an appointment that morning, and I had the feelings of what had felt like labor. I've done this before. My son Parker was born early at 37 weeks, so I didn't think anything of it. We ended up calling the hospital on the way there and said, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor. Would you rather me go to the appointment or go to the hospital? And they said, go ahead and go to your appointment. So we did. And again, I was very uncomfortable, had a hard time walking. I'd been through this before and was just pretty sure I was in labor. They got us to their room and did all of the things that you check. And she was having a hard time finding Ainsley's heartbeat. I really was not concerned at this point at all. I just felt like this was normal. She's maybe in the birthing canal. It's hard to find her heartbeat. I just wasn't worried. So she left the room and I looked over at my husband and could tell he was really getting upset. And I was like, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. So then they come back in and the doctor's with them and they have this Doppler. And honestly, I felt like it seems a bit dramatic, right? Like everything's going to be fine. And so she did all the checking and my doctor looked up at me and said, Erin, I'm so sorry, but there's no heartbeat. I remember saying, look at me. I'm ready to have her. I'm full term. She's ready to be born. And she said, we're not sure what happened, but we're going to prepare you. You're going to deliver her. And I said, I don't know if I can physically do that. That seems impossible to deliver her knowing she's already gone. So we ended up going through labor and delivery, and my placenta had abrupted and formed a very large blood clot on the placenta. So they believed that she had passed away that morning. But she was absolutely beautiful, and it took superhuman strength to deliver a baby that you already know is with Jesus. You know, when you're going through the pain of childbirth, when you get to hold your baby and you hear them cry and you see them, it's all worth it. But when it's a quiet room and there's no crying, it's just pain. And it was just really hard.
Was there any part of you that thought they're wrong? I know they're wrong.
I really did believe what they were saying. And that was such a dark place to be in, too. I've always been able just to pray for God and to have this, can you please help me? Can you please heal this? And in that moment, I didn't even know what to pray for because she was already gone. I mean, I saw the Doppler, I saw everything. We ended up doing a sonogram before she was born. I saw the stillness in the sonogram. And I remember when I was pushing and she was about to come out, and then doctor said, do you want to hold her? And I remember saying, I'm scared. I was just scared of what was going to happen. And then as soon as she was out and I held her, she was just perfect in every way, just utterly perfect. She just looked like she was sleeping. It was hard to even know what to pray for in that moment. I was just so in the moment of needing to deliver Ainsley. But it's hard to pray when you know she's already gone.
Yeah, I can imagine not being able to pray, just knowing. What about your husband? Do you know what he was thinking or?
Oh my goodness. I think they put me on some medicine, of course, to calm me. And when I look back on it now, I can see how a wreck he was. Not only was he upset because, he also just learned that our daughter was gone, but he was worried about me. He was worried about me physically. We didn't know what happened. I think he was worried, am I going to lose my wife too? Like, what are the risks that are going with this? He was the one with the phone having to contact our parents and let them know what was going on. So looking back on it now, he took a lot of pain as I'm just laying there numb, I think, and he's holding it all together, trying to take care of me, trying to call our parents and our friends and let them know what was going on with us.
Such a scary experience.
Yes.
Just, actually, I assume your worst fears have already come to light in one way, but then also just not knowing really what's going on physically with you would have been so scary. What do you remember about after you had the opportunity to hold her? And I'm just thinking about your thoughts toward God in those minutes and hours later. What was that day like?
Selfishly, I just remember holding her thinking, I will never get to see her do the things I get to see her siblings do. I remember holding her hands and seeing her tiny feet and thinking, I will never get to paint these toenails and experience all of the dreams I had for her. I mean, in that moment, it just stopped. My dreams of her life that I had been dreaming of for 9 months now had to change. And instead of planning her life, we had to plan her funeral. And so we just sat there and we held her and we loved on her. We sang to her. I just wanted to memorize her. And honestly, right now, even as that was my worst day of my life, if I could go back right now just to see her again and touch her body, I would. Just to memorize those lines. And she was such a great mixture of my other two children that I remember thinking, when I look at them, I'm going to see her. Like, she was just so beautiful. Also in that moment, my husband and I decided that we were going to make choices for Ainsley and us on what we wanted to do. We were going to hold her as long as we wanted to hold her, and do all of the things that just seemed right. But it was hard holding your baby who's not alive.
Yeah.
She was turning colors. And so those things were hard. And when we decided that we had spent the night with her and we gave her back, that night was a terrible night's sleep. I heard babies being born. My husband got up in the bed with me when he heard me crying in the middle of the night. And the next morning they asked if we wanted Ainsley back in the room. And I honestly didn't. I just was just wanted to hold on to those memories of what she looked like when she was first born. We had beautiful pictures taken of her, and those are really special to me. And I just wanted to hold on to that. Yeah.
So then you have to shift gears toward, as you said, not planning for her life, but planning a funeral. Can you tell me about even your thoughts or prayers as you were trying to work through that unimaginable experience?
Yeah, so Ainsley was born in the evening of December 22nd, and we woke up December 23rd ready to go. Like I said, I had heard some babies being born in the middle of the night, and those cries were just haunting to me. And so we were released pretty quickly, and instead of driving straight home, we drove to the funeral home in our town, and had to go through the motions of that. We were blessed with an amazing funeral home, and the people who helped us are meant, God had them do their job for a reason. They were beautiful at that. And then we had to go home and tell our children about this promise that didn't come true. And that's how it felt when you're telling your 7-year-old son and your 4-year-old daughter that their baby sister who we promised was coming is now with Jesus. So that was very difficult. We ended up having Ainsley's funeral on December 27th. So it was 2 days after Christmas. People just really came through for us. Like it was hard to function in those moments. It was hard to be a parent, and we had people bringing us meals. We had people making sure we had toilet paper and that our kids had things, that presents were wrapped, and all of those things were taken care of. I remember laying on the couch, feeling numb. I actually had one of Ainsley's blankets over my face, just trying to just be. And the man who runs the cemetery in town came by and said we needed to go pick a plot. I had just given birth. I was just not in a great place, so I trusted my husband to go, and so he did that, took care of that. And I believe it was the next day he came by and he said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know someone came and paid for your plot." Wow. And not only did they pay for Ainsley's plot, but they paid for the plot next to it for my husband and I to have. And I just thought, wow, like that's not something we asked for. It's not something we said we needed help with, but it was Christmas. It was, not something that we had put in the budget for to also have a funeral. I have no idea who paid for that. And I love not knowing, because it means it could be everybody and anybody, It's just something really special to know that someone did that just because they wanted to. And I don't ever want to know, because to me, it could really be anybody.
What was Christmas like?
Man, we just tried really hard because, again, Parker was 7, Layla was 4. They did not understand really the gravity of what we were going through. So we opened presents that morning, and they were just so excited. And that distraction was really good, just to see their joy and their happiness. I don't think that I giggled or smiled or had those normal feelings that you have at Christmas, but seeing them was a great distraction. They played with their toys all day, and I was able to just kind of sit there and take it in. And because they were distracted playing, they didn't really focus in that, I wasn't really in the moment with them. The funeral was beautiful. I do remember feeling that. But I also I felt very numb at that point. In your life, again, we had said we were planning Ainsley's life. We were not planning her funeral. So when we were in the hospital, we texted a friend of ours and said, "Hey, will you help us with this?" And they really took it over for us, thankfully. And I remember telling my kids that morning, "This is what we're going to do. Ainsley's going to have a funeral. You're going to see this small box." I explained to them that their sister is in there. It was closed. And I remember my daughter Layla saying, "Who's going to come to this?" And I said, "Oh, you're going to see, honey, all these people who love us." So we were sitting in the front row. We purposely asked for no visitation. I just didn't think we could physically or emotionally handle that. So I'm sitting in the front row, eyes casted forward on this tiny casket. And Layla's got her back towards the casket looking at everyone coming in. And she goes, "Mom, you are so right. We are so loved because there are so many people in here." And I just, It was so beautiful and innocent, but she was so right. We were so loved, and people showed up for us. And that's what I remember the most about that day that felt very numb and very hard, was that people showed up for us because they loved us and they loved our girl so much.
Erin had been blindsided by Ainsley's loss and the grief that came with it. She realized she had a choice to make about how she was going to move forward, how she would live out the days ahead.
Those days were very dark, I will say, looking back on it. My doctor was really honest and told my husband, if you feel like your wife is getting anxious and needs some anxiety medicine, please call us. And he did. And I was thankful for that. That was really helpful. I remember my aunt saying, open your blinds and look how beautiful the sunshine is. And I said, I don't want to see the sunshine. I will be very honest. I can remember those first few days were just terribly dark. And I just wanted to be sad. I also found that I needed to I wanted to be around other people who had felt this same kind of loss. I was just searching for that. I read a lot of books, and I read this one book in particular that just challenged me. And it was a breaking point and a changing point for me. And I thought, okay, I can choose at this point to go through life being a bitter servant, because this is my story. This is where I am now. Or I can make God famous with my love. And I wanted people to be like, man, I want to love God that much. And so that was it. I was like, okay, we're choosing to make God famous with our love. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to show people how much we love God through this. And I very much needed God to get me through the day. I know a lot of people, when they've been through hardships, question their faith. They question God. It didn't feel like an option for me. I needed him in every moment of every day. When I would wake up in the middle of the night, I needed him to put me back to sleep. I would pray before I went to sleep. And if I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would pray for him to put me back to sleep. Because I can remember waking up and reaching for Ainsley, thinking she would be there. And then when she wasn't, and I was back in my room and in the dark, I just needed God to put me back to sleep. At that time, I couldn't get enough of the song, Lord, I Need You. It was like the anthem of my heart. And Lauren Daigle's version, just in the woman's voice, I would just play it over and over. When I could not form the words to say, I would just pray those words and sing those words. And that's really what got me through those toughest times when I was on a maternity leave that didn't feel like a maternity leave. My arms were aching and empty without Ainsley in them.
I love how you said that you didn't feel like you had an option to not lean into God and not to believe that he's there. And yet he's the God who's allowed this really hard thing in your life. So sometimes reconciling that is so difficult. Where and what were some of the ways that you saw him show up?
Absolutely. God showed up with the man who ran Ainsley's funeral. I see him to this day, and he brings me comfort. He showed up with my friends who showed up just to make sure I was okay, and all of the food that came in. He showed up in those nurses who were loving on me when I was giving birth to Ainsley and who were also crying. He showed up in so many ways that I wanted him just to make Ainsley be alive, but he showed up in so many other places. The people who paid for our plot, I can remember when the man walked in to get my husband to go look at the grave plot, and Bobby said, how much does this cost? And he pointed to our Christmas tree and he said, this isn't something we budgeted for. We didn't ask anyone to help us. God just took care of it. And then I remember the funeral was over and someone said, everything's been taken care of. Again, I have no idea who paid for that, and I don't want to know, because it could be anybody. But God took care of that for us. And I really did, even in those moments, I saw that. I saw that God was taking care of me and my family, especially my family when I felt like I couldn't. I was struggling to get up. I was hurting so much, but God was there.
The phrase that you said, you could choose to be a bitter servant, or you can choose to make God famous with your love for him. When did a pathway to do that begin to take form in your mind? When did you begin to have ideas about what that was going to look like in your life?
So Ainsley's first birthday approached, and again, it's towards Christmas time. And it just was really strong on my heart that I wanted to do something to honor her life, to honor God, and to be a witness for our children. And so I just really prayed hard about it. And I thought, let's do an act of kindness in honor of Ainsley. And we will get all of our friends together to share them with us. And it'll make this terrible anniversary seem a little brighter. So that year, I do a Christmas card every year. On the back, I put a picture of Ainsley, and I said, can everyone please do an act of kindness and share it with us? I have a friend who's an amazing graphic designer. She made these beautiful little pink cards, and it said this act of kindness has been done in honor of Ainsley Beck. And so we put those in our Christmas cards, and her birthday came around, and our Facebook page was just flooded with all of these beautiful things that happened. And it made a terrible day and a terrible anniversary have a little bit more joy in it because of that. And my family, we wanted to do something that our kids could relate to. So we actually went to Walmart and we got balloons and candy. And my kids made little notes that said, today's my sister's first birthday in heaven. And they handed them out to other kids. We just wanted to see our children physically doing something. And it was beautiful.
You remember any of the things that were on your Facebook page that first year?
Yes, there were things. People were paying huge tips to waiters and waitresses. Good friends of ours went to the NICU and bought lunch and cookies for the nurses there, donated books to babies. And it was from the smallest things to the biggest things that mattered. I can remember someone saying, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, just do whatever feels right in that moment. Like, it can be big or small.
So then, did you decide that seemed really cool? We should do something like that again? Or how did it develop from there?
Yes. So after that, I was just like, we have to keep doing this. Like, how are we going to make this the thing? Like, we'll just do every year on her birthday. We're going to put this on our Christmas card. So the back of every Christmas card for 10 years now has had a picture of Ainsley and just encouraging someone to do an act of kindness. The 2 years after that, we were involved in making glove boxes for our kids' schools. So again, something our kids could do. And we made a glove box for kids to have warm hands at recess, and then they just put them back after recess is over.
Oh, so it's a box full of gloves that kids can use.
Yep, in every single classroom, because even the most organized parents lose gloves. So it was something, again, my kids could touch, taste, feel, and be a part of. And so we loved that. And we did it at the school they go to. And then my husband's a principal. We did it at his school as well. And so that was pretty awesome. So after that, it would have been Ainsley's 4th birthday. My town was getting a food pantry. So God had put this really strong on my heart that I needed to be a part of this food pantry. I didn't know what it was going to be, but he just kept pushing this food pantry. So I contacted the director and said, hey, I really feel like Ainsley's 4th birthday act of kindness needs to be about you. And she said, have you ever heard of birthday bags? I said, no, I've never heard of birthday bags. Will you please tell me about it? And she said, a birthday bag comes with everything a family needs to give their child a birthday. Cake, icing, party supplies, a little gift. And I was like, that is really cool. So again, we put it out there on Facebook, asked all of our family and friends, will you help us make birthday bags? So for Ainsley's 4th birthday, we donated a bunch of different things for food pantry food, and then 50 of these birthday bags.
Wow.
And every month at the food pantry, these birthday bags were available for families who needed some help for their birthday. Since then, we've really grown and taken off. So now we've given hundreds. We've gotten so much better at counting them. We wish we would have counted from the very beginning of how many birthday bags we've done, but we would guess over 500 families have now gotten birthday bags. Aww. In 2024, we did 163 birthday bags to families in need. And our birthday bag items have grown. It's not a small gift. It's a pretty substantial gift. And we help kids from ages 1 to 17. We also, if you're a child at heart, we've served some children who are in their 20s but have some severe mental illness. We help them as well. And so in 2024, on Ainsley's 10th birthday, a whole decade, we were able to bring in 276 new bags for this new year.
Wow.
Yes, her birthday was also on a Sunday, which was one of my favorite things. My home church, we prayed over all of these beautiful bags that were going to come and touch everyone. And actually on her birthday that day, we got a phone call from a family in desperate need of a birthday bag, and we made it happen that day. So we always say we don't get to give our Ainsley a birthday, but because of her, we've now given hundreds of kids a happy birthday.
It all goes back to that choice that you made. You could have lived in bitterness and served God in bitterness, or you could demonstrate his love and how much you love him. One of the things I love about your story is that it's not that you're saying, oh, it's all better and I don't grieve, but you're doing both, celebrating, literally celebrating the good things in life, and at the same time walking with grief. And I'd love to know, like, that's something you have to work out with Jesus. What has that been like for you? Because I'm sure it's not like a year passes or 2 years pass and you no longer feel that grief. Obviously, as you've shed tears today, it's still very present in your heart. What is it like to walk holding both of those?
I've definitely learned that you can have more than one feeling at a time. Like you just said, I can feel grief and joy all together. And that's a lot of how her birthdays feel. They feel a lot of sadness because I really ultimately want her to be here. And it's not that I only miss her on December 22nd. I miss her every single day. But I feel this joy and this peace of also knowing that I'm going to see her again, and that this walk I have on earth and what I'm doing helps me get there. So I'm living my life for Jesus because I ultimately want to get to heaven, and I know he's going to be there with her when I get there. And so that's just the ultimate treasure for me. And it's now been a decade, but I'm a decade closer to her. But grief comes in waves. Some days you handle it really well, and I think I'm doing so good. I love her. And then other days I just feel this deep sadness that she's not here and I don't get to experience life with her, and that I'm missing out on big moments. So it's a big combination of grief and joy, and I'm definitely not healed of pain because I feel it. I feel it every day. But I get to say her name and I get to do something in her honor. And it's so good for my grief. I like to say I serve in my grief, and it's a healing process for me.
Thinking of somebody who might be listening who just feels overwhelmed by their grief and really unable to even think about channeling it in some productive way. I don't know if you have any, you're 10 years in now, if you have any practical advice for someone who feels like they're drowning in their grief?
A big advice I have is to find others who are also hurting. I actually co-run a support group here in our community for pregnancy loss and infant loss. And it is a huge part of my healing to get to talk to other families who also feel what I feel. It's validating. It lets you know that the way you're feeling isn't wrong. And that you guys can heal together. I really feel like that's a huge part of it. As soon as I lost Ainsley, I was just searching for someone else who felt the way I felt. I was reading books. I was checking things online. And then when I was introduced to this group, I thought, oh, these are some of my people. Even though I have friends who love me and they want to understand how I feel, they don't. But these people understand that loss, that same loss. And I now have people who will message me or on Facebook or text me and say, hey, I have a friend who's at loss. Can you please help them? And then if there's someone who's struggling with something maybe a little differently than I'm going through, but it's still grief, I will say, please find someone who can also tender your heart and talk you through that. I just think we need people. We need to do this together, and reminding yourself you're not alone. That was a huge part of getting me up and getting me going and encouraging me. And now, yes, I have birthday bags to help me, but I also feel like this support group is another way I can serve. And it's kind of how I can parent Ainsley from heaven, right? I can go to this support group and I can be there for other families who are hurting. So yeah, find your people who are also hurting like you're hurting.
So you taught kindergarten for many years, and you've changed jobs this year, so your job's a little bit different. Can you share the story of the most recent birthday bag?
Yes, so I am an attendance specialist, and I work with kids who are truant, who miss a lot of school, and I visit several different schools in my area. And I was visiting with this one particular boy, and he shared with me that today was his birthday. And I was tickled pink that he came to school that day, because a lot of our truancy kids feel like that's a great day not to have to go to school. So I asked him what he was doing for his birthday, and he really didn't think he was going to be doing very much. So I sent him back to class. We had a great visit. And on my way home, I thought, I'm getting him a birthday bag. And so I went and picked out a birthday bag that I knew he would love. He's a 14-year-old boy, so I got one with cologne. And then I went to the local Dollar General and filled it with extra candy and soda. And then I decided I was going to go for a home visit and bring it to his apartment. And as I get out of the car, he's coming out of his apartment, and I hand him this bag, and he just smiles so big, and he says, "Can I please give you a hug?" And I just wanted to melt into a puddle of goo right then. And I thought, I hope this bag means as much to him as him wanting a hug from me means to me. And I just thought at that moment, I have to keep birthday bags now in the back of my car to bless kids.
What I love about that is like nothing will fill the hole the loss of Ainsley has left in your heart. But God has used this as an opportunity for you to pour love into countless other kids. You just think about that interaction multiplied hundreds of times over for kids who are receiving these birthday bags.
And then it makes you think of what good then they go out and do. It's a ripple effect, right? So like this love we're showing to parents of them getting to give their children a birthday, and then the ripple effect it has to the family and to the children and then to who they affect. I just love that. I won't truly know everything that Ainsley's effect has had. And one of my friends said to me something so beautiful. She said, I hope when you get to heaven, Jesus shows you all of the things that were touched because of what you did for Ainsley. And I was just like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I really hope that Ainsley can look down from heaven and say, that's my family. Like, they're doing this because they love me and they love Jesus. And I want to make her proud. Number one, we want to make Jesus proud, but we just hope that, this is all for them.
I'm sure there are people listening now who are feeling grief freshly. And I wondered if you'd be willing to pray for them.
Mm-hmm. Dear Lord Jesus, I just thank you for these listeners, Lord, and I pray for those who are hurting and in this pain that they feel so raw and dark, Lord, and I just pray that you will wrap your arms around them and just let them feel you, let them feel how loved they are by you, Lord. Please show them how loved they are in those little moments and those people who are around them, Lord. I just pray that they can feel your strength and your support with what they're going through, and that they know that the feelings that they have aren't wrong, but they're valid. And Lord, this time is just hard. Please let them see that it won't be forever, that this terrible pain won't be always, that grief is heavy and strong, but so are they, and that they're going to be able to see some light after the darkness. Lord, please, again, just wrap your arms around them and put people in their life who are going to love on them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Erin mentioned that one of the keys to dealing with grief was being able to talk with other people who had walked through loss. Empty Arms is a grief support group that Erin helps to lead, and you can find a link to their Facebook group in the show notes. She also recommends CompassionateFriends.org, along with several other national organizations. And we've got links to some of those in the show notes. We're also going to be sharing them on the Unfolding Podcast Facebook page. Erin shared a list of books that were helpful to her in the journey of grieving, so we'll post those on Facebook as well. And if you'd like to learn more about the birthday blessing bags that Erin's family organizes for their local food pantry, you can find more on their Facebook page, Acts of Kindness for Ainsley. And if you head there, you can see a photo of the 276 birthday bags they collected for this year. It is so cool. I'm so grateful to Erin for sharing her story. Thanks to all the folks that helped make this episode of The Unfolding possible. Lindsay Caparoon, Michael Shermack, our producer and network director, Jason Rackow. The Unfolding is a production of Faith Podcasts. We'll be back next week with another page of The Unfolding.